Annyeonghaseyo.
I'm Demarche.
I'm Ariel.
And we're
Soju for Two.
Okay, so next is going to be our final review of Absolute Boyfriend. And this is the Taiwanese version. And we've been keeping you up to date with this one. But we just finished it. And we have a lot of interesting things to talk about with this drama.
Okay, so it's the main character cast again. So we have Hero Wong plays Naita, Night Tenjo. Then we have Go Hae-sun from Boys Are Flowers, everything. She plays Guan Xiaofei, and then Kunda plays Yongxi.
Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, characters in this.
Yes.
Now, again, like the Japanese version, we have the robot, who, I guess in the Japanese version, the girl is kind of more important than the robot.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this version, I feel like we ended up having a lot more compassion for the robot versus the girl. Mm-hmm. It might, again, have something to do with Go Hae-sun. I don't know how we tend to feel about her overall, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the characters in this, it's really interesting because you have a robot who has human-like characteristics and will only grow in those human characteristics.
He's basically like a love robot.
Yeah.
He's supposed to simulate. He's supposed to simulate a boyfriend, but this is PG, guys. Don't worry.
No, it's.
He's supposed to simulate like a boyfriend, and that's why she buys him. That's sort of the plot.
Yeah.
She doesn't realize she's buying him, but anyway. So she gives him all these characteristics. He's a perfect boyfriend,
and
but meanwhile,
and she has a friend who's been her friend forever, and you know he you kind of realize loves her, and then you'll realize it much later that he really does love her, and then Go Hae-sun's character, you know, she sort of always had an obsessive relationships with people, or sort of one-sided, and when the first time she really has a relationship is with Knight, right?
The robot.
With the robot.
With a sexy robot.
Let's
be frank about this. So he's from the band Fahrenheit, which sings the song.
Yeah, which we're way more interested now in Fahrenheit.
Yeah. And we also saw him, we didn't mention this before, we also saw him in It Started With a Kiss, which we're going to review today, guys, so we love him.
So, I mean, with the characters and going into, chemistry, we really did think that there was chemistry, but again, I wouldn't attribute this to Go Hae-sun. I would attribute it to a really good job by Hero.
The reason why I think we don't like her so much is because I feel like, even though in this one we did like her more than
anything else we've seen her in.
Yeah, I mean, except for Boys Are Flowers, which we did love.
It wasn't because of her.
I know, but I think, Boys Are Flowers was a shining star for her. This one, it's quirky, and there's parts of her that can be really obnoxious, though. Yeah. So that's sort of like the balance of the show. But she still, I feel like Naita took the whole show.
Yeah, I mean, if it was another actress, I wouldn't have been upset.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
As per usual. So, love triangle. Obviously, there's love triangle here, but it's interesting how it sort of plays out pretty quickly.
The reason why it's so fascinating to us is that, Naita, even though he's a robot, from the very, moment you see him, it's just so you want, her to end up with him, and then you're kind of like, wait, he's not human, and you keep having this emotion, and he's such a good actor.
Yeah, I think you keep forgetting that he's a robot, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, while I was watching this, I was sometimes I'd be like, I wish this was just a regular guy that he, picked her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, for us, because it can't end well, right? From watching the Japanese version, if you haven't watched the Japanese version, I mean, there's only so many ways, being in a love relationship with a robot can end, without it being creepy.
It's actually funny, when there's one part of the show where he was digitally, on her phone, and I was sort of thinking, it's kind of like being in love with your cell phone. You can really love it, you keep it with you every day, all day long, but
it's not a person.
It's not going to end well, guys.
Yeah, so it was very interesting in that way. Okay, so let's go to our next one.
So we have mistaken identity, misunderstanding. So there's lots. I mean, his identity is a secret. I mean, he's a robot. And the misunderstandings, I feel like there's a lot of misunderstandings based on him and being broken, or what's going to happen with if he's going to survive or not. And that's the fascinating thing. I mean, he's a robot, so you think you're not going to have the human problems of dying suddenly.
Yeah.
But it ends up really human. I mean, you don't know when he's gonna die.
It was interesting. We were talking about this afterwards. Yeah. It really came a notion of well, if once he stopped being a part of the grid, of being a part of who made him, he had a real kind of natural process of you don't know when you're going to die. And so it made it actually really interesting for him to be a robot. Because
in the end, I think it's more about him being, more human than robot, even though he's not at all human.
She's messed up. I know. This show is weird.
The show is, so philosophical.
The Japanese one ended, I feel like you really believed he was a robot the whole time, and though you had compassion for him, you,
always rooting for the other guy.
Yeah, you were always rooting for the other guy because he was a guy. Whereas in this one, you were kind of wait.
Can't you just end up with Hero?
Can't she just marry the robot? I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ones, if you try to explain it to other people, they're not.
Because she almost does marry him, but even though she knows that he's going to die, she wants to go through this whole marriage thing with him, which kills him. I'm so sad about that.
This is again why we think she's really selfish as a character.
She's a selfish character, guys. Okay, so bad guy turned good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe it's her. Maybe she's so selfish in this, like, fact that she was willing to do anything for
to get
love.
what she wanted. Too.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even just love. It was, like, for her self-gratification in that way. I mean, she wasn't really taking into account what happened to him, and he was constantly concerned about her.
I know,
so,
but
like, is that a good relationship?
I don't know. It's sad, guys.
Okay. Piggyback rides. Yeah, he definitely gives her some piggyback rides.
I'm sure.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's adorable. I think he, like, deadlifts her a few times.
Yeah,
too.
kisses. So there are definitely some kisses in this one, whereas
no human kiss.
No human
Shocker.
kiss. I know, it was only robot kiss. Whereas in the Japanese version, there's kisses with the human, but not with the robot, right? She doesn't kiss.
No, I think she kisses the robot to start him up.
To start him up, but not like in the same way at all. So in the Taiwanese version, you have more of like a romantic relationship with the robot. In Japanese version, it's definitely more of like if you had a robot like who brought you drinks or something. Right?
Exactly. That's what I felt like it was. It's true. Okay, so fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not really. I mean, she's not very fashionable.
And he wears a lot of t-shirts.
Yeah, and also like half naked sometimes.
Which is great. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for that. Music. So the music was great.
So the theme song for this is
addictive.
Totally addictive. I mean, it's in Mandarin, which we don't know.
I don't know what he's saying, but I really like the way it sounds.
But really interesting, great theme song, really catchy. You'll be like singing along to it.
And the way we watched it, there's constantly like commercial breaks, I guess, and so you keep hearing that song played again, so it just like sticks in your head.
Is it like subliminal messaging, but not really subliminal?
It is, because I had to buy the song as soon as I heard it, so they did their job.
Good advertising.
Exactly.
All right, so to rate this one, now, I think that for me, I would give this much like sort of a better overall score than the Japanese version because it was a lot more intriguing, even though it wasn't an ending that I wanted.
Yeah.
So I would probably give this one like an 8.5 to a 9, because I do think it's really compelling, and I think the Korean version has a lot to live up to at this point.
Yes, we're hoping big things for the. Okay, if Top is really in this,
if he's the robot, like I'm gonna want her to end up with a robot.
Yeah. Okay, so we didn't talk about the ending. I'm gonna mention this really quickly. I guess my biggest disappointment with the show was the ending. Yes. So I'm gonna give this an 8.5. And I think the reason is because of the ending. It's not that I didn't think it was a great like way to end it. That it was like I didn't think it was compelling that he was willing to give up his last 10 seconds just to think of her.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was kind of pathetic because he could have been saved. And she could have ended up with human.
But that's why she's selfish.
And I just feel like it was a very sad ending, but I think the show was really good, and I think that you should definitely watch this one. I actually almost think you should watch this one before the Japanese. I think it's a little bit more kind of like thought-provoking than the Japanese, and I cannot wait for
I think we liked the Japanese more until we saw this one, and I really hope we like the Korean one more than all of them.
I just hope the Korean one's amazing.
Yeah. But I don't know if I can like this one. I feel like it's going to be hard to top.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Top act before. I mean, he's really a great singer, but
we haven't reviewed anything Top's been in yet.
But we've seen a few things. Yeah. So let's just say that he has lots to live up to Hero, but we hope he can do it.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye.